All right, we are live. We got to let it breathe just for a moment here. Get the whole family under the same roof. I once said, get the whole tribe under one tent, and it angered people. So I try not to say that, even
Oh,
though I meant nothing by it. I'm just
yeah. Got to
speaking
be
off the top
careful,
of
I
my head.
guess.
All right, welcome in everybody to this is not the Mile High Huddle podcast. I gotta do that over. Where's the right one? There it is. Welcome in everybody to this edition of Mile High Insiders. Luke Patterson is off once again, but I'm here. Chad Jensen with me. You know him, you love him. Thomas Hall is in the house, so let not your hearts be troubled, you Wednesday nighters. Stoked to be with you, Tom. How you doing, buddy?
Other than roasting, like I said, it is abnormally hot where I'm at, and I'm sweating bullets right now. Not because I'm nervous or anything, but because it's just so dang hot here. But other than that, doing really well.
Good to hear. It's been interesting hearing Garrett Bowles talking about Bo Nix of late. He obviously had a lot to say about him during mandatory minicamp, but we can get into this a little bit later. He also had a lot to say about him in an appearance on the Insiders on NFL Network, talking about how cool, calm, collected that he is, and how he marveled at how he was just ready to rock and roll right out of the gates as a rookie and this and that. But when we talk about sweating bullets, Tom, a lot of quarterbacks, rookie quarterbacks especially, when the field gets especially skinny and it's goal to go and you're in the red zone, that's when you start seeing them kind of tighten up a little. And of course, the greats, that's where they shine. They find a way to make it happen, and that's where they end up becoming and being their best. But Tom, I don't think Broncos country realizes how good Bo Nix has been in goal to go situations. And before we get into some of the details and weeds on that, did you notice? I mean, I'm sure as a numbers guy, Tom, you're aware of what I'm about to say, but from a palpable sense, wasn't it a big sea change last year? How when the Broncos got in the red zone, they scored with Bo Nix.
Yeah, yeah. It took him a little while to get his legs under him, of course, but as the season progressed, he got much better in the red zone. I know there's a lot of numbers going around about the last 2 years of goal to goal situations. I think they're a little bit high. I went into the play by play data, and Bo Nix was 17 for 29 with 13 TDs and one interception in goal to goal situations. And those goal to goal it's defined as when you cannot get a first down. You're too close to the goal line. You cannot get a first down. That's goal to goal for me. That's how it's usually defined. I threw away QB spikes to kind of take away those, throwaway things. But that's the problem when you look at, if you don't put the definitions out there, you're never going to know what's actually in the data, but it's still pretty good. And he still ranks pretty high in those, in that kind of ranking, in that order. He still ranks pretty high. So he was pretty solid in those goal to goal situations.
Here's what Tom is talking about. And by the way, real quick, Papa Bear, great to see you tonight, big dog. So stoked that by an inch, it's a cinch. By the yard, it gets hard. You're taking it inch by inch, getting better, getting well. We love to see you, big dog, and hope you are having a great day, my friend. Thank you for the super chat. He says, good evening, Broncos country. Hashtag 13 and 4 plus, which I think Papa Bear and I are sharing a brain in terms of I interpreted what his plus means, Tom. Divisional round, AFC championship game, Super Bowl 3, right?
There you go.
So Papa Bear, thank you, buddy. So good to see you. Also, shouts here to Gene William, my dog. Got to look at his new profile pic. That's us at the show in Denver Friday night. That was awesome. It's hard to make out because they're just little tiny people on a probably looking at it on your phone screen. I know some of you guys watch from the TV, but that's Ralph, that's me, that's Gene, that's Jimmy Thielen. You'll see him in the chat. But Gene, good to see you, big dog. I miss your musk. It's not even been a week, and here I am already missing you. Another Wednesday with Chad and Tom. What's good, brothers? Go Broncos. Okay, let's get back to this. Great to see you, Gene. This is what we're talking, or Tom was referencing, some numbers going around. So let me go ahead and pop this. We're going to get to the Russ stuff. I mean, it's worth talking about. But first things first, this is from Warren Sharp of Sharp Football. Pardon me, sharpfootballanalysis.com. And he had a tweet today that made some rounds, ruffled some feathers in a good way. People being really excited about, because look, I'm a guy, Tom, that covers football at the highest possible level that you can, right? We're on Sports Illustrated. When I see something like this and it's from a credible source, I'm not going to go into the weeds trying to research whether it's true. Now, somebody like you who has your own analytic system, you immediately went, something maybe doesn't pass the sniff test. But suffice it to say, this data got a lot of people excited. Here's what it said, quote, Bo Nix's rank in goal to go among all rookie quarterbacks since the year 2000 with a minimum of 25 dropbacks. He was number 1 of 17 in success rate at 54%, number 1 of 17 in completion rate, 65%, number 1 of 17 in touchdown rate, 50%, and then 3 of 17 in EPA at plus 0.19%. So, Tom, decipher what this all means and where, and maybe this isn't the one you're talking about. It might be his other tweet, this one up here.
It was this one.
This one.
It was that one.
Break it down.
What I can tell you is these are all good numbers, even if they're a little bit high, which I think all of these numbers are a little bit high as far as completion rate goes, because I don't know his methodology. I was looking at it as at the basic level as I can. It's still good. I mean, quarterbacks make their money in the red zone and on third down. And Bo Nix has been really, really good at both of them. The numbers show it. Even if this is a little high, he still ranks fairly high in all of those positions. So that tells me that you've got a great quarterback, because if he's doing that as a rookie, he's ranking high as a rookie with other veterans in comparison. That's good news. And from my perspective, I don't see him having a sophomore slump. I think the team got better. I think the defense probably got better as well. So offense is better, defense is better. I don't see, and the way he prepares, the way he goes about his business, I don't see that there's anywhere but up going from here on out. So good numbers. I wanted to know a little bit more about what went into them, because they weren't the same as what I could find on play-by-play stats. So, but still
reached
good.
Out to Warren, right?
I did. Yeah. I asked him what his definition of goal to go was, because if it's a little bit different than what everybody else thinks it is, that could make the numbers a little different, but I haven't heard back. Either way, I mean, 65% seemed high to me. It's around 58%, 59%, which is still really good for a shrunken field. And, you're down there in goal-to-goal situations. You don't have as many options when it comes to the passing game to really stretch the field out or get these underneath passes. So I think it's still a great number for Bo Nix. But I always like to verify when I see numbers coming out.
Definitely. So for those of you who will be listening to this after the fact, or who might not be staring at your phone right now, this ranking shows the completion rate on goal to go passes last season. Number 1 is, according to Warren Sharp, Lamar Jackson at 69%. Number 2 is Jordan Love at 68%. Then you have 2 quarterbacks tied at number 3 at 65%, Bo Nix and Baker Mayfield. And then look at, these are the giants of the league. 4th, Jalen Hurts. 5th, Patrick Mahomes. Well, they're tied at 4th, I should say. 5th, Jared Goff, 59%. Dak Prescott, 6th at 58%. Aaron Rodgers at 57%. CJ Stroud, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So Stroud rounds out the top 10. And it's excellent. And going back to third down, I don't have, Tom, Bo Nix's efficiency on third down metrics and whatnot, but as an offense, the Broncos last year, first of all, inexplicably, nobody saw this coming, finished as a top 10 scoring offense in the league, which was amazing, exactly at number 10 for what it's worth. But Tom, as an offense, they converted just shy of 40% of their third down tries, which ranked 13th in the NFL with Bo Nix.
Yeah. And I actually did a study, analytics study, and I'll have to go back and find it. It's probably in Mile High Huddle somewhere under my name. But right before, it was about 4 games left in the season, I looked at what Bo Nix was doing on third down, and he was ranked as far as being able to convert that third down with as a rookie with other greats as rookies. So it was a really kind of a telltale sign. If you're going to go on and be pretty good, are you able to convert as passes for the offense as a rookie on third down, or if you're not, most of those quarterbacks didn't really pan out. So it was a good sign. And I don't remember the exact numbers. I have to go dig it up. It's an article out there somewhere.
I found it. So let me stop this share screen and we'll go to the next. Well, first, let me just see what do you guys think so far on the convo? Ralph, what's going on, bro? Great to see you tonight, big dog. Says Nix, only a 79 in Madden. JJ McCarthy was higher. Let this disrespect continue and fuel the boys. What's up, better looking Luke Patterson and Thomas Hall? Yeah, we were joking about that. Luke will be back soon though, because Ralph loves Luke. Luke's a stud, first of all, but don't worry about it, Ralph. He'll be back before you know it. And thank you, buddy. Appreciate seeing you tonight. What do we got? Joseph, what's up, buddy? I hope everyone's doing well. Back at you. Gene, exactly, dude. Miss your Musk, big dog. Amy, how are you? Good evening, back at you. Just some hellos here. Joe, Weatherspoon, at least Wilson. We'll talk about that in a minute. Roy Osborne, what's up? Big Earn, as I like to call him. Do you remember? You know what that's from? What's that? Kingpin. Have you ever seen that with Bill Murray? And I mean, he's like a side character. He's like the villain, if you could call it a villain, but it's got Woody Harrelson in it, and it's a bowling movie.
Are you talking about Kingpin?
Yeah, Kingpin, dude.
Yeah, I've seen that a long time ago.
Yeah, dude, and so Bill Murray's character in that movie is Ernie McCracken or whatever. I can't remember for sure his last name, but they call him. He's like, call me Big Earn. So when I see Ernie Mays, I'm like, dude, Big Earn in the house. Great to see you, Broncos country only for sure. All right, let me come back to this. So I'm switching over to Tom's breakdown here real quick. And this is really interesting. Let me actually put it on the screen. Let me see. Tom, tell me when this gets big enough that it's a lot easier for someone looking at it on their phone to maybe read it. Okay. Here, let me get past come on now.
That's pretty close. Yeah. Pretty close. A little bigger would be good, but it'd be hard to read otherwise.
How about, whoa. How's that?
There you go. That's beautiful.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead here. Third down, often referred to as the money down. It's an important catalyst. Quarterback who can convert with his arm at a high rate is considered elite. Typically, those who can't tend to be busts. Where does Bo Nix, the rookie, rank? This is from December 10th. Okay, so toward right as they were entering their stretch run. All right.
Yep.
And he says, does Tom back then? Simply put, Nix is passing the test with flying colors. It could be a very reliable harbinger of the Broncos' future with him under center. And then you go through and explain your qualifiers. And you said that you found something quite amazing. Once these quarterbacks, so I've analyzed 61 qualifying quarterbacks who had their first NFL season in 2014 or later and found something quite amazing. Once these quarterbacks got their first 4 weeks to settle into the NFL, their third down conversion percentage became an indicator of just how good they were going to be in the future. If one of these QBs was good at converting third downs when throwing in that first season, in almost every case, he's considered elite today, or at least very good. Inversely, it's the same effect, just the other way. And so Nix on third down, let's just examine this. Since week 5, Nix has converted 45.1% of third downs when passing the ball. There's only one quarterback who had a better percentage after week 4 in his first season as a starter. You may have guessed it, Patrick Mahomes at 46.3%. That's good company, Tom.
Absolutely. And, I'm a numbers guy, as you know, and I dig into the numbers. And sometimes you create some numbers and you can use them or whatever, and you don't know for sure if it's really a telltale sign or not. But this one really struck me as a solid sign because it was so overwhelming. And everybody knows that third down is where good quarterbacks separate themselves from mediocre quarterbacks. So it made sense to me. And that's what really got me going with Bo Nix. It wasn't just that, I'm a Broncos fan and I want him to be good. He had a lot of signs that he could be really good. He can make all the throws. He doesn't have the strongest arm, but he can make all the throws and he's good on third down. And that's what you really need. So that's what got me the most excited about him when I saw that is he's just good when he has to be.
Yeah. I love that, dude. And I of course, the reason Tom is with us is because I was a fan of Tom's writing, and we talked a little bit about this last week. His former website, Hardcore Orange, Gridiron Orange, and I found him. I was reading his stuff, and then one day I'm just like, "Hey, dude, you want to come write with me?" And the rest is history. But I've always loved reading the numbers and stuff, and I don't really have a great brain for the numbers. Like, I suck at math. I can do the basics, right, to get by as a grown man in the world, but like, as soon as you start getting into complex equations or trying to help my kids with algebra homework or something, my brain starts like folding into itself. It doesn't work out well. But the way Tom can convert kind of complex numerical stuff, statistics, it can kind of, in a vacuum, some of that stuff can actually be quite boring depending on how it's presented. Not with Thomas Hall. Ralph says, Tom, I personally think Shannon Sharp should be in front of Gary Zimmerman now in the top 10. Sounds like you guys had a little conversation going. Maybe it's based off some of your social posts. Your thoughts, Tom?
Yeah, it's interesting. I ranked, if I'm going to go back and re-rank it, I would probably change it up a little bit. I love Gary Zimmerman. I think Sharp and Zimmerman, there's not much separation. I think Sharp was 9 and Zimmerman 7, so that's basically the same. I threw Zimmerman in there a little bit higher than most people think, only because I don't think they win that Super Bowl, that first Super Bowl, which is hugely important for Denver Broncos, the history of the Denver Broncos and that team, without Gary Zimmerman, because they dominated the Green Bay Packers defensive line when they shouldn't have. And Zimmerman was a part of that. Now, I know they won the game, won the big game the next year, but getting that monkey off their back was incredibly huge. I don't think Shannon Sharp had as much of an impact as Zimmerman did in that Super Bowl. But it's not just about how good you are. It's the importance of, I go with the importance that they meant to the Broncos as well. So they're all right there. The top 10, top 20, they're all pretty close together. But yeah, I enjoy the conversations with that list when folks don't quite agree with me. So it's good, but it's at least it strikes up the conversation. And I hope you learn a little bit.
Oh, for sure, dude. It's great. Gary's, what people kind of miss, they only think about, in terms of Super Bowl 32, just the fact that it was finally the first one and that Elway got the monkey off his back and all that. But like, there were so many remarkable attributes to that championship run, including, and not the least of which, they were a wild card team, dude. Back then, wild card teams did not advance to the Super Bowl. In the 21st century, it has become a relatively common occurrence for teams in the wild card to go deep. But back then, it was almost unheard of. So not only did they have to go the entire AFC gauntlet as a wild card team, but Tom, then they get to the big dance, and it's the same specters of the past. That big NFC juggernaut is not only a big NFC juggernaut with an MVP quarterback, it's the defending world champion Green Bay Packers. Literally, guys, many of you are old enough to remember this, but nobody outside of Denver, and even most people in Denver, in terms of media, expected the Broncos to even have a chance in that game. And Tom, you bring it up. This is me boiling it back down to Zimmerman. That enormous Green Bay defensive line with Mike Shanahan's kind of light and small athletic O-line. Yep. Another thing people didn't expect to see was how that offensive line dominated those guys and really exploited them with the zone blocking thing to a phenomenal end. There's a reason TD was the MVP.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was at the time, and I don't know if it still is, but they were the biggest underdogs in Super Bowl history. The NFC had won, I think, 13 or 14 Super Bowls in a row. They were going up against the defending champs, and nobody thought that offensive line, they're too small. There's no way they're going to compete with the Green Bay Packers defensive line. And one mistake that the Green Bay Packers did make on their defensive line is, I believe, they inactivated one of their regular defensive line rotation guys, and that really come back to bite them later in the game, because those 5 or 6 that were actually in there playing were really pretty tired by the time the end of the game was coming around. So,
Shiloh, Chad working overtime this week. We appreciate all you guys giving us 100% every day. Hey, dude, it's my pleasure. And when guys can't make it and no one else is able to fill in, It's kind of like when you're the boss, Tom, you're the last guy to turn the lights out. Someone has to step in. And fortunately for me, this is not work. Like, it's work, but it's not work. Like, I have fun doing this stuff. So it's all good. And I appreciate you, Shiloh. But Tom, to your point, the NFC, you and I were old enough to remember what it was like being the fans of an AFC team in the 80s and 90s, because the last team, believe it or not, gang, before the Denver Broncos as an AFC squad, the last AFC team, I should say, to win the Super Bowl before Denver in Super Bowl 32 were the Los Angeles Raiders. All right. That was in the 83 season. So the game happened in January of 84, but the 83 Raiders were the last team from the AFC to actually win the Super Bowl. And the Broncos, of course, 1997, the game happens in 98. So from in between, it was one juggernaut after another. And the Broncos, of course, were on the losing end of 3 of those. So you had, after the Raiders, it was the Niners, the Redskins, pardon me. It was the Niners, the Bears, the Giants, the Redskins, the Niners, Giants, Redskins. Sometimes I forget how dominant the Redskins were at one point. Cowboys. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. No, I'm not. Cowboys, Niners again, Cowboys, Packers. Then you get to the Broncos.
Yep.
Broncos repeat. Then it's the greatest show on turf, Rams. Then the AFC starts getting its licks in for, like, the Broncos open the floodgates, Tom, because then it's Ravens, the reign of Tom Brady, basically 4 years in a row, almost punctuated by just one NFC championship, Tampa Bay with Gruden. And then you got Pittsburgh, Indy. I mean, the AFC went on a run. And if it weren't for Eli Manning, Drew Brees, Sean Payton, and Aaron Rodgers, it would have been pretty bleak up until Super Bowl 48, Tom, for the NFC.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was. It got a lot of monkeys off of the back for the AFC and for the Denver Broncos, that first Super Bowl. And I hold that first Super Bowl, even though the 98 team is one of the best teams ever assembled. I mean, it's got to rank in the top 10. That 97 victory, that championship, that was it was so sweet. And I hold that as the best championship of all time, because that was the first one. And he even talked to the players too. I think Mark Schlereth talks about it. He says the first one he was exhausted after it. It was like that, it just exhausted him mentally. He didn't want to party, have a big party afterwards, because it was just mentally exhausting. And then the next year when they won it, it was fun and everybody was having a great time. And I think the fans were the same way.
Dude, those who lived through the era cannot imagine what it was like, because you were equal parts hopeful and excited that the Broncos would finally win. And the other half, maybe less, depending on the person, was like what the way Elway's family felt. Like, he's told the story going into Super Bowl 32. I think it was his mother, it might've been his sister, but I'm pretty sure it was his mother. So I'm going to paraphrase his story here. Gets a phone call, and she's kind of like, I just wish you guys weren't in the Super Bowl, because I just can't bear to see you guys, lose again. I can't see you go through that again. And just the expectation that, if it's the Broncos, who at that point were 0-4 in the Super Bowl, 3 of which were Elway era, and it just didn't seem, as much as we were hopeful, it was like we had bad luck or something. Like, we pissed off the wrong football god or something. It just wasn't going to happen for us. And the turning point, Tom, in that game where I stood up, I was like, dude, this is happening, was the helicopter.
Yeah. I think a lot of fans had that same reaction. They're like, there's no way they're going to lose this after he just went and did that helicopter dive. I actually was not I was pumped when that happened, but I was not relieved until Mobley knocked down that 4th down pass, because it was going down to the wire. That was the closest game that other than the missed field goal, that was the closest game the Super Bowl had really seen in a while. So I was still sweating until that 4th down pass, and then it was all happiness.
I was like, could this actually be? Holy smokes! Yeah, dude, what a great time back then to be a Broncos fan. But hey, we got D-Crom in the house. David Cromwell, what's up, dude? And this is a nice segue. Thank you for the super chat, David. It was nice to see you a few months ago at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. you watching you work all day long. You got quite the work ethic, my friend. And where Scott and I were sitting up in the stands, we could just observe you doing your thing, going around, talking to your sources, getting your watching, of course, too, what was happening on the grass. So great to see you. But Tom, he wants to know, do you think yesterday's news mostly reflects well on Greg Penner and how he operates? So for those who may have missed it, what is David talking about? Well, there was a report from, let me get this open real quick, from Pablo Torre, I think is how you say his name, about the Russell Wilson, the aftermath of the Russell Wilson trade, and how his initial ask to the Broncos, and by the way, this all came out through a litigation process that has been being waged in court, NFLPA, basically suing the three owners. I want to say it might have been all NFL owners, but three owners roped in, Broncos owners, Ravens, and Cardinals, for colluding to suppress quarterback guarantees on extensions that were all signed that year. And so some of the stuff that was submitted as evidence has come out, and one of them we'll get to about Penner, which is what David's talking about. But basically, the first big piece of news was that Russell Wilson's camp actually asked for a 7-year fully guaranteed contract worth $350 million. And according to Wilson, what he was hearing from the team was that basically they didn't blink, and they were like, yeah. They were kind of telling him what he wanted to hear. And then eventually we all know what happened. The deal, when it was finally done, was 5 years, $245 million, something like $125 million guaranteed. All right. Yep. Well, along the way, and then I'm serving this over to you, Tom, in the notes that Greg Penner took during that time when he would sit in meetings with George Payton in the front office, and they were debating what to do, because with Wilson was, in fact, let me just find the actual quote he wrote in his notes, which were again submitted for evidence in this case. Quote, 2 years left on contract. Why not wait? Close quote. So remember, Russ came into Denver with 2 years left on the deal he had previously signed with Seattle. And they ultimately, Tom, and I want your take on this, why, we'll get to it here in a minute, why did Penner ultimately go against his gut and sign him? But from what you learned, and I'm just setting the stage for people so that you can answer David here, do you think yesterday's news mostly reflects well on Penner and how he operates?
I don't know how it reflects on him. I know that, he had his doubts. And so maybe he should have listened to his gut, and maybe that going forward, he will a little bit more. Maybe he will next time be a little more assertive in that process. Now, the reason why they signed him to that deal because they just gave away the farm for him. I know that people say they should have waited, but everybody expected him to still be an elite quarterback. I mean, for the most part. So I can kind of see what happened, but Penner stepping in and saying, well, hold on, wait a minute. Let's rethink this. I think he should have pushed it a little bit longer. He should have pushed it harder, and I think he will going forward. So I don't know if it reflects on how he operated before, but maybe that learning experience will help him. I just hope it doesn't go too far the other way where he's a little too cautious, which can happen. And then you might miss out on doing a contract like Nick Bonito, right. Don't be too cautious kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the thing is, in hindsight, right? There's a reason why they say hindsight's 20/20. Looking back on it, it's like, well, yeah, they made a mistake, XYZ. But you got to remember, Russ came, his first year in Denver was his 11th year as a pro. So in 10 seasons in Seattle, he was a 9-time Pro Bowler. Yeah. Only 1 year did he miss the Pro Bowl. In 8 of those 10 seasons in Seattle, he led his team to the playoffs. There was every reason to believe at the time, especially for a team like the Broncos, who had been quarterback desperate for better part of a decade, that he was about as safe of a bet as you could make. But I understand why Penner went against his gut, because when you give up, Tom, 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and 3 starters in exchange for a quarterback, the last thing you want to do is risk that investment with him getting disgruntled over not showing him the love on a contract. Now, in all fairness, we don't know exactly what was being said behind closed doors, but from what we've learned about Russ, I doubt he would have made too big of a fuss, at least publicly, about not getting a new contract with the Broncos when he still had 2 years left, Tom, and knowing that they'd already invested so much. Show us a little something first that you still got it. Like, it's understandable, but the Broncos, Tom, didn't want to risk it.
Yeah, and it's a good thing that they came to their senses and negotiated and got the contract they did. Can you imagine the financial mess they would be in still today had they went with a fully guaranteed 7-year contract? It would have been extremely cumbersome. I don't even know if they could have got out of it even when they did. I mean, it would have been even incredibly more painful to try and cut him when they did. They might have been stuck with him for at least another season.
But this is where serendipity comes into play. Football serendipity, as painful as it's been dealing with the Russell Wilson fallout and that albatross of the contract he did get, it's kind of like saying things happen for a reason, et cetera, et cetera. Without that, you don't probably end up with Sean Payton as your head coach, and you probably don't end up with Bo Nix and being in the situation that you are entering 2025. So, hey, if you had to suffer a little bit, Tom, to get where you're at, that's part of what life is about. And honestly, looking back on it, knowing where the team's at now, what would you change? Well, you wouldn't pay Russ, but I don't fault George Payton even now, looking back on it, like, hey, he made what looked to be a relatively safe trade for Russell Wilson. And now, ironically, Tom, it'll go down in history as probably one of the top 5 biggest blockbuster bust trades, in NFL history.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it ended up being a mistake, but there were some Seattle fans that were saying, he's washed, but most people, most analysts, most media members thought it was a great trade. The Broncos had been in dire straits for so many years. They were on a quarterback carousel. It was bleak. They needed to do something, and they went out and did it. And I was surprised that they were able to get him. And I didn't think it was going to happen. I didn't think that Seattle would actually do a trade to get rid of Russell Wilson. So when it happened, I think everybody was pretty much on board with it, but it didn't work out. And a lot of the reasons, I think there was multitude of reasons. It wasn't just Rush. Hackett was a terrible coach, and that did not help at all. So you're right that all those changes kind of led us to where we are now. And hopefully we're going to be seeing the future of the Broncos getting better and better.
Well, and imagine next year. Look, this year, the Broncos are still carrying 35 million of that dead money. And next year is when they really are freed from the bulk of it. And look what they've still been able to accomplish. They got really young and they've invested in that youth. They do have a couple of 2-3 big contracts coming up that they're going to have to decide on, but man, they're in good shape. And I do remember, now this came out, I want to say during the Peyton Russell Wilson offseason together. So the offseason of 2023, I just did a quick Google search to see if I could find it, but we reported on it at MHH, and it was, I think, if it wasn't citing the GM there, John Schneider, it was citing an anonymous source in the Seattle front office that going back at that point, a little more than a year, that the Seattle had basically said that one of the reasons they were comfortable moving on from the Russell Wilson era was that they were confident he had lost his foot speed and his foot, basically his ability to make magic with his legs. And it turned out, Tom, to be exactly that. But we found out about it in hindsight, because that report didn't come out till a year after the trade was made. And you look at Russell Wilson, that first year in Denver. Think about this. The Broncos with Bo Nix, all right, he was sacked only 24 times last year, which were the third fewest. So only 2 quarterbacks were sacked fewer times than Bo Nix last year. Russell Wilson, year 1 with the Broncos in Hackett's system, 55 sacks. 55. That's more than the entire Denver Broncos defense of 2015. Last year with Peyton, who invests in this offensive line, or his last year with Peyton, after he invests in the offensive line, brings in his guys, McGlinchey, Powers, etc. 45. So he still had a ridiculous number of sacks, Tom. And that was the one thing that we know drove Sean Payton crazy was he just did not operate on schedule with the play. And when the play was even like in the process of unfolding and maybe looking good, he would break the pocket and run and either get sacked, get hit from behind and fumble, make a bad decision. Sean Payton was fit to be tied. He's like, look, I'm out. I gave it the old college try. 2 games left to go, guys. We're done with Russell Wilson here at Broncos HQ.
And I'm surprised he made it as long as he did. He's always taken a lot of sacks. And typically when a quarterback takes a lot of sacks, especially early on in their career, they start to get little happy feet back there. Because you're getting hit constantly. I'm surprised that he made it as long as he did, taking as many sacks as he did, and still be as productive as he was in Seattle. And that, I think that has a lot to do with it. I think the number of sacks finally added up, and he didn't have the ability to escape, and he was feeling that pressure of that next sack coming on, and that really hurt his production those last 2 seasons here in Denver, and it probably still is. I mean, I think he's still taking sacks, and we'll see about how it goes with the Giants, but I think he took a few too many sacks with the Steelers as well.
Joe says, Russ to Nix. Hey, it's always darkest before the dawn. That's a good way of putting it. Little segue here off topic from Todd. Chad, do you like Tom Petty? I love Tom Petty. Tom Petty is RIP, of course. He's passed, but I've always been a big Tom Petty fan. And even though punk rock is like my favorite thing, I do like some metal. My problem with metal is on vocals, and this is a dude that likes, I do like a lot of hardcore punk that doesn't have a ton of melody in the vocals, but when it comes to metal, if you're going to scream all the time, even if the music's killer, it's probably not for me. If you're going to scream on the verse and sing on the chorus and I get a little bit of melody out of the vocals, then those are kind of the bands that I like a little bit more when it comes to metal. What about you, Tom? What's your favorite genre of music? Oh, you're muted, buddy.
Before I jump into my favorite, I have a wide variety of music I like. But my wife and I got to go see Tom Petty at Fenway Park. It was awesome. Yeah, it was great. It was like early on, like 2012, I think, maybe 2013, something like that. It was awesome. I mean, it wasn't a great venue to see right. Tom Petty up there because, it's a baseball field, but it was still fun as heck. But I like everything, man. I have some favorites in country. I have some favorites in metal. I have some favorites in pop. So if I was going to say, yeah, this is the one that I like the most. I mean, I grew up in the 80s, so, the hair band, rock, that stuff always pleases me for sure.
That's cool. Todd, what about Pink Floyd? I was the only album I liked for the longest time of Pink Floyd, because I never really gave anything else of theirs a chance, was Wish You Were Here. But that changed about, 2-3 years ago. My brother, Derek, got me kind of interested in Pink Floyd, and I spent more time listening to like Dark Side of the Moon, and I became a fan. I'm not a huge fan. Like, I'm not walking around with like Pink Floyd t-shirts or anything, but I am a fan. Pink Floyd. My favorite tune is still, though, Wish You Were Here. That's an awesome song.
Yeah. I like Pink Floyd. I'm not a huge fan of Pink Floyd. If you're going to go from that era, I'm a Jimi Hendrix fan over everybody else from, like Pink Floyd and the Who and the Rolling Stones and those folks. I loved Hendrix, man.
The man. One of my best buddies. He's even in my little passion project, my little part-time band, Bridge the Gap. Sean, he named one of his sons' middle name Hendrix, just like the way it's spelled too, right? Not CKS with the X.
The X.
And then, so pretty cool. All right. Todd, though, we'll reward his awesome musical segue with getting on this, because he says, look, Bo Nix being our QB, my reaction was, finally, we found our quarterback. Not immediately, but after game 4, he started to operate much better. I felt really good. I'll be honest with you. Those of you who have been listening to the MHH podcast for a long time know that I was psyched on Bo Nix before the draft. I really liked him as a Sean Payton fit. To me, made perfect sense. And I did not buy into the, he's a third round talent. He's a system quarterback, because that's not what I saw watching him. Did he have like the gnarliest? Did he have an Elway cannon? No, but his arm was more than good enough. Like, there is not a throw he can't make. And so Bo Nix arriving, Tom, that was, talk about serendipity, right quarterback, right coach, right team, right place, right time, all of it. It's working out to Denver's benefit.
Absolutely. And, being able to make, you don't have to have a cannon to make every NFL throw. As long as you can make that deep out and you're not getting intercepted on those deep out tries. And Bo Nix can make that deep out throw. It's not, he's not slinging it like you said, like Elway, but he can make those throws. And there's more to it to me. And this is where he separates himself from a lot of these other quarterbacks. He has a different attitude, a work ethic that shows you can see it in his, his everyday, how he goes about his business. He's got an edge to him. He's got that kind of extra piece that a lot of NFL players, when they've relied on their talent so much that when they get the NFL, it takes a little longer for them to acclimate, if they even do. But it seemed like right out of the gate, he was one of those quarterbacks, one of those players who dove right in, worked hard, got better. And you could see it every week in and week out. He was constantly getting better.
And just the fact that, I agree, man, 100% everything you just said. And just the fact that he got 18 games of starting experience already.
Yep.
I mean, the NFL, I don't think they're sleeping too much on the Broncos anymore. Like, you're seeing them being mentioned as that next, right at the top of that next tier of AFC teams, of playoff teams. But I do think the NFL at large is still sleeping on Bo Nix. And I'll talk more about that on tomorrow's show. I'm planning to break down the Mike Clay of ESPN's stat projections for the Broncos. We'll get into that. But let's segue here. Tomorrow, that is. Naj Al-Taf, brother, so good to see you. How have you been, big dog? Hope you are doing well. Legendary, mythical, Mount Rushmore, Super Chat superstar, Naj Al-Taf in the house. He says, hey, brothers, been too long. Hope all is well in Broncos country. Keep doing your thing, bros. We shall, Naj. Thank you, big dog.
Thank you so much. It's great to see you here. And I just want to say thank you for going into Gridiron Intelligence. I saw you emailed me, and thank you so much. Appreciate it.
That's awesome, Naj. Awesome, bro. Exciting times, my man. On to the next chapter. Cherish every moment, my bro. Amen to that. So good to see you. I love Naj, dude. He's a good friend, too. Ralph, best punk band I've seen this year is Bridge the Gap. That's right. Ralph was there last Friday. I'm also a huge Johnny Cash fan, which is why I really love Social D. Yeah, dude. Johnny Cash is there's nobody like him in all of music. And even though he's like country and western guy, as a kid of the 90s, this is predating the Cash movie that Joaquin Phoenix did that turned Johnny Cash's legend to even higher stratosphere. But when as a kid that was into like punk rock and alternative and, Nirvana, everything from like Nirvana to the Sex Pistols, when he covered that 9 Inch Nails song, Hurt. And I was like, whoa, what is this, dude? Because I was into 9 Inch Nails a little bit when I was younger. So that got me interested in Johnny Cash. Then I went down the rabbit hole, became a huge fan. When the movie came out, I was like, yo. But yeah, Social D covered Johnny Cash, covered Ring of Fire. Yeah. And I think another one, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but that is a good band. Social D, I don't blame you. They're not my favorite, but they're legendary. They're like in terms of punk rock, they're about as close to being an institution as there is.
Yeah, it's funny. My father, who much older than one would think, he played guitar. He loved country music. He loved Johnny Cash, and I was never really into Johnny Cash, but I got into him like you in the 90s. I got into Johnny Cash as well. Love his music, and I love he's done so many covers that and I think they're all really pretty dang good. Hurt is the top of his covers, but he's covered several other bands, other songs. Oh yeah.
A lot of people don't know this either, but Glenn Danzig wrote a song. So Danzig from Danzig, and the guy, Mother, that guy who I knew first as the guy from Misfits, but he wrote a song for Johnny Cash because he's like a known songwriter in the biz. He also wrote a song for Roy Orbison. Wrap your brain around that. Ralph wants to know, Chad, you could be Mike Kliss's replacement as Broncos insider or Bridge the Gap open for Green Day. What would you choose? Oh, dude, no question. Bridge the Gap, because I already have the biggest reach. MHH has the biggest reach of all the Broncos, from insiders to whatever, social media. Our total reach on social media and the amount, I mean, we have something like 21 or 22 million unique readers of the website annually. So I could have my cake in this scenario, Ralph. I could have my cake and eat it too. I could keep doing MHH. And if Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day calls me and says, Bridge the Gap, come open for us, dude, I'm going to go do that and have a good time, But to be clear, Bridge the Gap is just for fun. It really is. Like it's something I'm good at. It's something that people appreciate. And those who do appreciate it, I appreciate you. But guys, I'm 45 years old. I'm bald. I've got children, a mortgage. I'm not trying to go be a rock star. I'm like realistic. That's not even, we're just doing it for fun. It's just some people, Tom, like to hunt or fish or off-road or bike or do whatever and work on cars. Look, dude, I like to play music and when I'm not doing this.
Yeah. The funny thing is I used to do a lot of things for fun. I don't do that many things for fun anymore. I got a house I got to remodel and I got, work and everything else. But what I am finding hard to do, but I'm actually finding fun as well, because I've never done it before, is trying to get this business going, Gridiron Intelligence. It's a lot harder than I thought to get people to sign up, but it's definitely taking me out. I mean, I know how to run a business because I've been in the corporate world for a long time, but a startup is something new to me. And I'm working pretty hard at trying to get people to get interested in it. It's but it's basically, that's my hobby right now, I would say.
Dude, and because it's one thing to like understand how to operate a business, like step in and be the manager guy or the new owner and like run a business, but a startup, especially in the digital media space, it's not easy because there's a lot. It's a sea of competitors that you're trying to break into, and it's not easy. But if you have a quality product, which Tom most certainly does, that more often than not is the difference maker. We love you too, Ralph, brother. Appreciate you, buddy. So yeah, so stoked for what you got cooking there, bro. We got let me see where to go. I saw let me see. Sorry guys for the dead air, but this is what it was. I want to grab from Nosh. I'm excited to see what Bo will do, but I'm also aware of the sophomore slump. We need a solid running game to ensure Bo continues to progress. Well, last year, Tom, the entire Broncos running back room combined for something like 11 or 1,200 yards off the top of my head. Something like that. Bo Nix rushed for a little more than 400 himself. It was anemic. It was totally ineffectual run game for the most part. In fact, the only time it wasn't ineffectual was when Bo Nix was breaking the pocket or they were doing some kind of gadget thing with, Marvin Mims or something like that. But fast forward to today, look, if we can see that from the outside, what do you think Sean Payton's seeing from the inside? He goes, yeah. Bye, Javonte. RJ, come on in. Harvey, we're going to spend a second-round pick on you. Oh, and by the way, we're not going to rest on our laurels. JK, come on, here's a few bucks. And just going off of, again, I'll go into greater depth on this tomorrow night, but Tom, just going off of Mike Clay's ESPN projections for the running back room, they just between the two guys, RJ Harvey and JK Dobbins, he has them combining for over 1,500 rush yards with two guys. So I agree with you, Naj. Got to have that run game, but I'm honestly not sweating one iota over a sophomore slump because the antidote to the sophomore slump is Sean Payton. That's the actual like marker, the rub.
Well, and if you think about CJ Stroud's sophomore slump, and that's why people are worried about it, his offensive line kind of failed him. I don't think unless there's injuries, and you can never really anticipate it unless there's injuries that offensive line was a great offensive line last year, or at least pretty good. And they should be better because Wattenberg's a little bit better. So you're going to have similar protection for him. You're going to have a better running game, which is going to keep the defenses a little bit more honest. And you've got a defense that got better. So it's going to put those are going to put Bo Nix in a better situation. Just even if he stayed the same, as his rookie year, he's going to look better. But like I said earlier, his work ethic and the way he goes about preparation, his ability to get better, also is going to play into this. I don't see him having a sophomore slump. And I actually projected his stats too. Somebody was put it out there. I've got it on Twitter. And I think he's going to have a better year. And even though he's not going to be as much of the focal point, because he was the offense last year. He basically ran. He was the leading rusher, and he had to pass a lot more than he should have. He's still going to have better stats this year because he's going to have a more balanced offense and more opportunity to have quality ball movement, quality drives that are going to show up in his stat line even better. So that's what I think.
Gene, brother, sorry to make you wait. I missed this. We don't have Scott with us tonight to catch everything, so I had to check it on the back end. Sorry to make you wait, big dog. Appreciate the stars, my brother. Says, I genuinely don't understand the Bo hate. He's going to get us a Super Bowl or two, 100%. Where was Justin Herbert his rookie year? Well, Herbert had the most prolific rookie quarterback season of all time in terms of his production, his statistics. If we let me pull it up. Hold on. So Bo Nix finished with the second most passing touchdowns by a rookie ever with 29. The record is Justin Herbert in 2020. He had 31, and he passed for about 700 yards almost. Well, 600 yards anyway, more than Bo Nix as a rookie, but you don't get that rushing production. And he was sacked a bit more than Bo was last year, though not by a great measure. So 8 times more than Bo was his rookie year. But Justin Herbert, to what success did that redound for the Chargers? Well, they went 6-9. His second year, he had, 38 touchdowns and 5,000 freaking yards. Man, I forgot he had a 5,000 yard season, Tom, sometime.
Yeah. He's a good quarterback.
They go 9-8. He makes the Pro Bowl. Last year was really, so 2022, I guess they double-digit wins, 10-7. And then last year with Harbaugh, 11-6 as a team. He passed for about where Bo was, 3,800 yards, 23 touchdowns only, 3 interceptions, Tom.
Yeah, if he can't shake the playoff bug, the monkey off his back, or whatever you want to call it, Herbert, with Harbaugh as his coach, he's never going to do it, I don't think. I mean, that's been his knock, a great quarterback, but can't do it when it counts. Harbaugh's gotten more out of lesser quarterbacks. So I think they're going to be a formidable opponent, even though Chargers have a history of blowing that. I think they're going to be a strong opponent this year. Oh, yeah. Because it's Harbaugh's second year. He's making that team his own. He's a good coach. He really is. I think the AFC West is up for grabs between the Chargers, the Broncos, and the Chiefs. And the reason why I say that, I know everybody well, the Chiefs are really good. They are. So Patrick Mahomes, if you look at his trend, he is in store for his worst year as a quarterback. Now, he could bounce back and have a great year, so you can't always follow the trends. But if you do look at his trend, this year is going to be the worst year of his career by far. It's going to be, actually a fairly poor year, not just in Mahomes' kind of statistical way, but for regular quarterbacks as well.
Interesting. Real quick, from here on out, guys, we got to rapid fire everything, but we'll get to it. He says, does Naj, Tom, I love your idea. So many interesting stats now and ways to evaluate players and units, etc. You're a sharp guy. You'll put together a fantastic product. I have zero doubt. We'll tell you guys where to find that product here at the end of the show. And then MBLEX Test Prep wants to know, Tom, can I reach out to you about helping with your business?
Yeah. Reach out to me on Twitter at Thomas Hall NFL if you want. You can go to Gridiron Intelligence. you can, there's a contact on the About page. You can contact me through that. Go ahead. It's been great. The support has been great. I've already had a couple websites that have asked me to put my link on their website to get more buzz going. So any help I can get, great. I'm learning as I go. But like you said, like Naj said, the product is great. We're going to have exclusive data, and we're going to solve the problems that a lot of people have when it comes to stats. No transparency, so you don't really know what's going on with the grades or what they throw out there. We're not going to be like that. We're going to be transparent. We're going to come at a reasonable cost, and we're going to put everything in context. So you'll know what everything means. You will know what these numbers are meaning. You won't just see a number and go, oh, that's great. But yeah, it could have been garbage time numbers. Well, so those are the 3 problems that we're going to solve and have exclusive data. So absolutely go check it out and let me know. It's got sample data there now, and it's going to get nothing but better from here on out.
Keith, who will be at training camp representing MHH and which days? I'll let you know soon on that front, my brother. I'll let you know soon. Ralph says we will be 3 games better this year. Will 13 wins get us the division?
Yes.
Keeping in mind that the Chargers won 11, and what did the Chiefs do? Were they 15?
They were 14-2, I think. Yeah, 13 and 4. I can't remember, but yeah, 13 wins get the division because this is a tough division.
They were 15-2.
15-2. They got lucky a few times, but I think 13 games win the division because I think that the Chargers. I'll put it this way: whoever goes 4-2 in the division wins it.
Yeah, I agreed. Naj again saying on offense, I'm most intrigued by Evan Ingram. On defense, it's what Riley Moss will do, and I'm really intrigued on how Vance Joseph will follow up his best defensive coaching performance. Yeah, dude, Ingram. He was projected in the Clay stat projections. He's something little over 900 yards. I think he's actually, and it's all assuming health willing, right? So like health willing, including his projections. I think he could be, 800. Circle back tomorrow, but very, very productive. All right.
Yeah.
And yes, Riley Moss. Now that's an interesting choice, Tom, for someone to to spark intrigue on defense. I'm frankly surprised, or actually it's like I would more expect someone to say like, I'm intrigued at what Zadeh Barron can do, but I'm a huge Riley Moss guy. Like I think people are already going, Barron's going to be boundary corner on base and then kick inside on nickel. I don't think so. Again, we're from the outside looking in. We can see things. You don't think the Broncos realized that when Riley Moss went down the stretch, you don't think they recognized he was the fulcrum to which the entire passing off defense literally crumbled without him on the field? They rushed his ass back, and that's why he was getting torched left and right in that Cincinnati game. But I digress here. Riley Moss, I think he's an ascending player. What he needs is a little luck by way of the injury bug. And man, what a fearsome trio that's going to be, though, Tom. Riley Moss, Pat Surtain on the boundary, and Barron in the slot. Woo.
That's right. Yeah, I know people are thinking he's going to replace Moss, but I think McMillan is the one that should be sweating when it comes to Barron, for sure, just because I think he's an upgrade over McMillan. Nothing against McMillan. I liked him. I think he's a good player. I'm not as high on Ingram's stats as other people. I still think he's going to have a good season, but I think he's going to be in the 600-yard kind of category with, 5 touchdowns, something like that, which is still good production, especially for a tight end. I mean, he's no spring chicken anymore, right? So, but I just think that the offense has the ability to spread it around more. There's going to be more up and coming players that they need to get involved. You got running backs, you've got Mims that needs to get involved more. They'll definitely try to see what they got out of Bryant. You've got other folks out there that can then catch the ball. So I don't think Ingram's going to be the focal point enough to have this big season that you had a few years back.
Gabe Moss is legit. Our secondary should be all-time great if Talanoa Hufanga is at his best. Yeah, I think we're all excited about Hufanga. He is, I agree with something Nick said on, I think no, it was maybe last week's one of last week's Broncos for breakfast, but that we're underselling how crucial that addition could end up being to the overall picture. But guys, we are out of time for tonight. Thanks to everybody being here. Appreciate you guys. As Keith says here, Thomas out there solving the problem of bringing quality, meaningful stats while being awesome.
Thank you.
A quick shout out to the great Super Chat superstars and supporters helping us keep the lights on deep into June, like the Papa Bear, David McElrath, Gene William, Ralph, the Brace Girdle Boys, David Cromelo. Great to see you, David. Naj Altaf, dude. Stoked to see you. And I think that's it for tonight. Much love and respect to each and every one of you for being with us. Tom, remind everybody how to find the new website and stuff. Give them the rundown.
Yeah, go to gridironintelligence.com. Or you can go to my Twitter feed. It's right there. You can find it. Just go there, check it out. Go to the stats and analytics page. That's where you're going to find the dashboard that you can really kind of dig in and see. And that's the nice thing is I'm ready. I'll take feedback. You know, these early signups, these people that want to subscribe early, they're going to be able to kind of shape some of these metrics and how it goes. So go to Gridiron Intelligence, gridironintelligence.com. Check it out. Sign up. Send me an email, whatever you need to do. I'm looking forward to it.
Also, connect with Tom on Twitter at Thomas Hall NFL. You can connect with myself at Chad and Jensen. Connect with at Mile High Huddle. It's easy to find. You just on X, you just open up the app, start typing Mile High Huddle, and you'll find it. But it's easy to remember. It's all one word, no underscores. Now, when you're trying to connect with this on Instagram, unfortunately, there are the pesky underscores on Mile High Huddle. So, but we need you over there, guys. So make sure you're following us there. If you want to get a t-shirt or a hat, mhhmerch.com. And don't forget, guys, to like the video while you're with us. Helps us out tremendously. Leave a 5-star review. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, goes a long, long way. And Tom, I mean, we snapped. We had our first-time podcast last week. Now we've made it 2 in a row, and we've been working together for what year was it you started working?
2018. 2018, I started writing for you.
Whoa, dude.
It's been a long time.
That has been a long time, dude. Wow. Well, anyway, had a blast, bro. Thanks for having me. And
thank you.
Much love to everybody. I don't know what's the MHI sign off again?
We usually say this is the way from The Mandalorian. So that's what we usually say.
See you guys.